Alright, so I opened up that cover, took that nut off, and put my wire on. I had to trim out the top of that box just a little bit. That hole that it has for the wire to come out, I just trimmed it just a little bit so that I could get the alternator wire and my amp wire in there. Looks like I got some tape to put back, and then I kind of taped up that, or put that loom on there and then kind of taped around it to make sure that loom's pretty flimsy. Just kind of taped around it to make sure that it stayed okay, you know, that it didn't try to come off, and just kind of tie wrapped the wire up, and I just need to trim the tie wraps, and we're done under the hood. I can get rid of my extra, save it, and let's work on getting the rest of the trim pieces back on the dash. Continuing on with our install, I put this where I could still get to it, or see the LED on it, which is, it's right in this pocket here. I can tuck it out of the way when I go to put the pocket in, but I needed to see those that light on it, the little LED light, to make sure it was programmed. I turned the ignition switch on and the auto program feature did not work on it. So I turned the key off, turned it back on, repeatedly pressed the volume up button, and it programmed itself. So that put it, I guess, into program mode, and now it's working. You can see the volume's working. Let's see if I put it on. Yeah, it's seeking. If the source works. Program button is not working, and this button is not working, which was for OnStar, but I don't know if I can reprogram it for the radio. I might have to see what's going on there. I also need to turn it on. There's a key code sequence. Let's see. That will tell me what. I need to make sure this thing's getting recognized as a Kenwood and not a JVC. So that should be, yeah. So I'll do that. It's the sequence of flashes on there. So I'll check that, see if I can tell, make sure that it's seeing it as a Kenwood, because if it's seeing it as a JVC, maybe that'll cause some of the buttons not to work. So let me check that, and I'll finish. I had pulled this out just so I could pull that over, so I need to put the radio back in. So I'll put that back in and verify that that's recognizing this as a Kenwood and not a JVC, and then I'll start putting all these dash trim pieces back in. So this button right here, the program button, after I put it on a CD or on a different input, the program button actually is assigned to, what am I trying to say? It moves tracks, so it advances the tracks forward, which that's fine with me. And this button, actually, if I hold it down, it activates Siri, so it's perfect. So now I'm going to tuck that out of the way, button up the stereo install, putting it in, and then I'm going to slide in the DVD player and start putting all my trim pieces back. Alright, so got it all installed, and I put the trim panel on, everything, and then I realized that the A-pillar tweeters are not working, and then I went back and checked the D-pillar speakers I put in, and they are also not working. So my only speakers that are working right now are the 4-door speakers. So if you watched my video on installing these tweeters, I made note that the tweeter plug on one end where the tweeter plugged in, the tweeter plugged into a plug, and on the other end of the plug there were 4 wires, so 2 positives, 2 negatives, and I made a note that must be where the jumper, where it basically goes from the Bose amp up to the tweeter, then down to the door speakers. Well, I don't think that's right. I think the 4 wires that are there, the other 2 2 come from the Bose amp, positive and negative, and then 2, a positive and negative, go to the D pillar speakers. And so I think the Bose amp ran the A pillar speakers and the D pillar speakers off of a separate channel, and that the regular stock or non-Bose harness that I tied into does not have a connection for the A pillar speakers and the D pillar speakers. So what we're going to do to fix that is I'm going to run speaker wire through the dash over to the tweeters. I'll run 2 sets of speaker wires, and we're going to need to figure out in that plug which wire is the one that runs to the Bose amp, which we will not use, and which wire runs to the D pillar speakers. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to ohm out those speaker wires, and the ones that run to the D pillar speakers, those are 4 ohm speakers, so they should ohm out around 4 ohms. There will be some resistance probably in the wire, so it'll probably be somewhere between 4 and 5, maybe like 4.5 ohms or something like that. But that's what we're going to do, and that should take care of the issue. Hopefully that is the speaker wire. It's got to be, if I recall correctly. I think I made note, or I don't think I made note in the video, but when I was looking at my wiring diagram to figure out positive and negative on the D pillar speakers, I think the wiring color for the D pillars was the front speaker wiring color and not the rear, which I thought was kind of odd, but really didn't think much of it. And when I was upgraded all these speakers, I was still running them on the Bose amp, so everything worked. Then, of course, when I changed the head unit out, I lost the A pillar speakers and the D pillar speakers. So let me get this A pillar off, and I think I'll actually start on the passenger side. There's more room to work on that side, and that way I can kind of tell, well, it doesn't really matter either way. So I'll just start over here, and I can get those speaker leads cut out of there, or cut off the plug, and figure out which ones for the D pillar speakers. And then, like I said, I'll just run and tie into my radio harness right here. So we'll have one speaker wire running over, or one pair of speaker wires running over, that'll run the tweeter, and then another one that'll tie over the tweeter, run off the front output of the radio, and then the rear output I'll run a speaker wire over that'll tie into that wire that runs to the D pillar, and we'll do that for both sides. So we'll have 2 speaker leads coming over here, 2 speaker leads going over there. Alright, so it's these 2 leads. I'll have to look at my GM wiring colors again to see which one's positive and which one's negative. Actually, yeah, I'll have to look at my wiring colors, but I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Come on. Well, can't do it one-handed, but I got 4.11 ohms when I connected these 2. There, you saw it just for a second. There we go. So it's those two leads. What I'll do is go ahead and cut these others and tape them. We don't need them, so we'll cut that one and cut that one. So that leaves our two that run to our rear D pillar speakers right there. And I will, like I said, run a speaker wire over here. Run two wires over. One will tie in to the speaker, the tweeters. I can cut this old plug off of here. We will not be using that, and we'll go from there. Blurry. There we go. Okay, so that side is run. So right here, here's my two wires. My speaker wire is all the same color, so my D pillar wires, I put a black piece of black tape on the end so that I would know which one was D pillar. So I did the same thing over here. Already found which wires are which. These run to the D pillar speakers, and so I'll tie into those, and then I'll run a new one for the tweeter. I've got the glove box open. I'll cut off two pieces of speaker wire that will be long enough, and I will tape them together and feed them from up here, and hopefully I can reach in the glove box and grab the other end and take it on over up into here and feed it through. So I'll estimate about how much speaker wire I need, give myself some extra, and go ahead and run those. Alright, so I just took this, pulled that over, and then allowed my glove box to drop just a little bit. Held it with my leg to keep all my contents from dropping out. And I was able to reach in here and fish that wire in through the top. You can see it runs right there. Runs along here. I'll throw a tie wrap right here. And then up through, I pulled this pocket out. And you can see it running right there. Over to here. Like I said, I taped the D pillar on both ends. So there's this end of it, and there's this end, so I know which wire is which. So we're ready to connect it up, and I can shut this for now. So let me get this wired up, and then we'll have to do our wiring here. So we'll have to cut out our nice heat shrink tubing and redo it with another wire on there. Alright, soldered in heat shrink tubing, tied in. We gotta get all this stuff back in the dash and slide the radio back in, and I'll tape up this harness. But yeah, everything's done nicely, so we shouldn't have any issues. I would just like to say that that thing works great. I was not going to be able to pull this thing out of the car right now, you know, with it all hooked up. So I've been wanting butane torch or a butane soldering iron, and so I picked up this one, 20 bucks, and it works great. So I was able to use the soldering tip, and then after I use the soldering tip, I use the heat thing to heat shrink, or shrink the heat shrink tubing, and it works great. It's the Burnzomatic ST500, and it was 20 bucks. So let me get all this wiring tidied up and back in, and we should work, and we'll test it out.